Germany did not go straight from emperor to dictator. Between the Kaiser and Hitler, there was a democracy. It was called the Weimar Republic, and it was born carrying more weight than any fragile system could bear. This is the story of how a modern, ambitious democracy, built after a lost war, was slowly pushed, shaken, and finally handed over to a party that promised order and revenge, and then destroyed the very republic that had opened the door. Act 1. A republic born in defeat. In 1918, as World War I collapsed for Germany, the old order fell with it. The Kaiser fled into exile, sailors mutinied rather than die in a final battle, and revolution broke out in ports and cities. Out of that chaos, politicians meeting in the town of Weimar tried to build something new, a democratic republic with elections, civil rights, and a modern constitution. On paper, it was one of the most advanced democracies in Europe. Women could vote. Parliament was powerful. The president was elected. Germany tried to reinvent itself as a normal, civilian-led state after years of monarchy and militarism. But Weimar was born under a shadow. The war had ended not with victory, but with armistice and defeat. The Treaty of Versailles forced Germany to give up territory, accept blame for the war, and pay heavy reparations. Many Germans saw this not as a negotiated peace, but as a humiliation imposed on a proud nation. That humiliation fed a dangerous story. Some army officers and nationalists claimed Germany had not really been beaten on the battlefield, but stabbed in the back by civilians, leftists, and Jews at home. It was a myth, but it was comforting to those who could not accept defeat. And from the first days of Weimar, it poisoned the legitimacy of the new republic in the eyes of many who felt they had lost both a war and their empire. Act 2. Crisis, inflation, and politics in the street. The early years of Weimar were not a calm new beginning. They were a storm from both left and right. On the left, communist uprisings tried to push the revolution further, inspired by what had just happened in Russia. On the right, monarchists, nationalists, and veterans formed paramilitary groups, the Freikorps, and later, the early Nazi SA, who refused to accept the new order. Politics did not just happen in Parliament. It happened in armed clashes in the streets. In 1920, right-wing officers attempted the Kapp Putsch, a coup to overthrow the republic and restore a more authoritarian regime. It failed, partly because workers went on strike and the state could not function. A few years later, in 1923, a little-known agitator named Adolf Hitler and his followers tried their own coup in Munich, the Beer Hall Putsch. It also failed, and Hitler ended up in prison, where he wrote, dictated, and refined his ideas for the future. That same year, 1923, Germany was hit by one of the worst cases of hyperinflation in modern history. The government, struggling with war debts and reparations, printed money to keep going. Prices spiraled out of control. Savings that had taken a lifetime to build evaporated in months. Workers were paid twice a day because their wages lost value between morning and evening. Photographs from the time show people carrying banknotes in baskets and suitcases, money worth less than the paper it was printed on. Hyperinflation did more than wreck the economy. It shattered trust. Many Germans felt the state could not protect the value of their work, their savings, or their future. The middle class, which is often the backbone of democratic stability, watched its security disintegrate overnight. By the mid-1920s, things seemed to improve. A new currency stabilized prices. Foreign loans and agreements eased some of the pressure of reparations. Berlin's culture flourished with new art, cinema, and science. From a distance, it looked like Weimar had survived its worst crisis. But under the surface, the scars remained. Millions remembered chaos, coups and money turning to dust. They had experienced a state that seemed at once intrusive and powerless, and they had watched parties on the extremes promise simple, brutal solutions. Act 3. The Great Depression and the Nazi Breakthrough. In 1929, a crisis that began far away, in the New York stock market, hit Germany with full force. American loans and investments that had supported the German economy were suddenly withdrawn. Banks failed. Factories closed. Within a few years, millions of Germans were unemployed. Desperation spread. Families sold furniture to buy food. Young people who had grown up in a democratic Germany now stood in line for work that never came. The Weimar system, once again, looked helpless in the face of a global storm it had not caused, but could not control. Politically, the Republic entered a deadlock. Coalition governments fell apart. Parties could not agree on how to handle the crisis, cut spending or increase it, raise taxes or print money. Presidents increasingly ruled by emergency decree, bypassing parliament. Democracy began to feel less like government by the people and more like a constant, exhausting crisis with no clear direction. Into this vacuum stepped Adolf Hitler and the National Socialist German Workers' Party, the Nazis. They offered a simple, brutal story. Germany had been betrayed by Versailles, by weak politicians, by Marxists and Jews. They promised jobs, national pride, and an end to humiliation. Their rallies were carefully staged shows of strength. Their propaganda hammered the same themes again and again. During the 1920s, the Nazis had been a fringe movement. After the Great Depression hit, their support exploded. In election after election, their vote share jumped. They did not win a majority, but they became one of the largest parties in parliament alongside the communists. The center shrank, and the extremes grew. In 1932, Hitler ran for president and lost, but his party became the largest in the Reichstag. Germany was now a country where many voted for parties that openly questioned or hated the democratic system itself. The Weimar Republic was still alive, but the ground beneath it was crumbling. Act 4. From Chancellor to Dictator, Burning the Ladder. In January 1933, Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany. He did not seize power with a successful coup or a sudden march on the capital. He was appointed by the president, Paul von Hindenburg, after months of intrigue and backroom deals among conservative elites. Many of those around Hindenburg believed they could use Hitler. They thought they could harness his popularity, tame his movement, and secure a stable government while keeping real control in their own hands. It was a fatal miscalculation. Within weeks, a dramatic event gave Hitler the opportunity he needed. On the night of February 27, 1933, the Reichstag building, the seat of parliament, caught fire. A Dutch communist was arrested at the scene. The Nazis immediately presented the blaze as proof of a vast conspiracy and demanded extraordinary powers to protect Germany. Using fear of revolution and instability, the government suspended basic civil liberties. Police could search homes, arrest people without clear charges, and censor publications. Communists and other opponents were rounded up. In the atmosphere of panic and tension, new elections were held, but now the campaign took place under intimidation and repression. Still, even then, the Nazis did not win an outright majority. To truly reshape the state, they needed something else, a law that would give Hitler's cabinet the right to pass legislation without the Reichstag's approval, even laws that contradicted the Constitution. This would become the Enabling Act. In March 1933, under heavy pressure, many deputies voted for that law. Some were intimidated. Others, especially from conservative and nationalist parties, hoped it would bring stability or believed they could limit how it was used. Only a small group, notably the Social Democrats, openly voted against it, knowing they were signing their own political death warrant. With the Enabling Act in place, the Weimar Constitution was effectively hollowed out. Hitler could rule by decree without needing to ask Parliament for permission. Step by step, other parties were banned or dissolved. Trade unions were destroyed and replaced with Nazi-controlled organizations. Regional governments were brought under central control. The SA and SS terrorized opponents and enforced the new order in the streets. Within a short time, the republic that had begun in hope in Weimar was gone. What remained was a one-party dictatorship built partly through violence, but also through legal steps, votes, and the cooperation or silence of those who thought they could ride the tiger without being eaten. The lesson of Weimar. The fall of the Weimar Republic was not just the story of one man's rise. It was the story of a system weakened by defeat, economic disaster, and political violence, in which too many people lost faith in compromise and institutions. Hitler did not create those crises, but he knew how to use them. He turned fear into a weapon, anger into votes, and the tools of democracy into instruments to destroy it. By the time many Germans realized what had been lost, the opposition was broken. The laws had changed, and the cost of resistance had become terrifyingly high. Looking back, Weimar is a reminder that democracies do not only die by sudden coups. Sometimes they are eroded from within, step by step, through legal changes, emergency measures, and a series of small surrenders to those who promise simple answers to complex problems. The rise of Hitler was the end of the Weimar experiment. It was also the beginning of something much darker, for Germany, for Europe, and for the world. But that is the next chapter in this story. How a dictatorship built on resentment and radical promises led to another, even more devastating war. Could the fall of Weimar have been prevented? What do you think? Subscribe to Fabulae for more stories that shaped history.